So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another one of our lovely Pure Talks with one of our experts. And today I am thrilled to be joined by Imogen White from Hello Polly. Hello, Imogen.
Hello, lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So you're a creative copywriter.
Yeah. Yes. So basically, as a copywriter, I'm sure most people know what that is, but just for anyone that perhaps doesn't, I write compelling online content for my clients so that they don't have to. And that could be blogs, that could be websites, content, or it could be for social media or for some campaign work that they're undertaking. And so, yeah, that's basically what I do. And it's for businesses and also for creatives.
And you're also a writer in your own right. Writer in your own right. You've written books.
I have written books. So I've written, these are the two traditionally published books that I've written, which are the Rose Muddle Mysteries, and they were for Usborne. Which are sort of for 9 years, 9+, to adults, and they're sort of twisty-turny historical mysteries. And then last year, I wrote this for Fulham Palace in London, which was a lovely project, and I worked with a brilliant illustrator. It's an absolutely beautiful book, actually. And yes, I wrote the copy for that to bring the magic to life of the actual history of Fulham Palace in picture form, and obviously with the story as well. So yeah, those are the books that I've written. And I've also got my short stories are on permanent display in Brighton Museum as well.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in finding more about Imogen, there's a little tab at the bottom here that says Hello Polly, and you can go through to Imogen's website and then you can book a call with her. So if you find that, you know, she's the person for you to help you with your copy, then, you know, that's how you contact her. And I'm going to quickly share your website screen as well with everyone, because not everybody is over here with us on Crowdcast. Some of the people are watching this on Facebook. So hello to everyone who's watching us on Facebook live streaming. So this is your website.
Yeah.
And as we can see there, that you're a professional content and blog writing service, and people can book a free call with you to chat about anything that they are struggling with copy.
Yeah, and that can just be advice. You know, this is if anyone's got any questions and they would just appreciate a bit of time just to talk things through, that's absolutely fine. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, so that's your website. And you are based in Hastings.
I am.
Just down the road from me, near the sea. How lucky are we? So tell me, who are I'm just going to close that. And I'm going to give you the screen so that we can see more of you and less of me, which is much nicer. No one wants to see so much of me. Why do people come to you? What kind of people come to you?
Yes, well, basically I work for a lot of web developers, so I get a lot of clients through web developers, obviously to write website content, and people come to me to write blogs. In terms of the sorts of clients that I have, it is extremely varied. So they could be local businesses. I've worked for a taxi firm, for example, but also for a furniture maker, more recently for a designer and an architect. So quite a broad range. But what I love is that I feel a bit like Mr. Ben. So when I'm working on any given project, I feel like I just put on the hat of whoever I'm working with, and I become them for the duration of the project. And that really kind of appeals to me, sort of learning so much about somebody so quickly, because one of the main skills as a copywriter actually is to harness the voice of whoever you're writing for. I mean, it would be terrible if all my work sounded like me. I have to sound like them. So that's very much what I do, is I listen. I have a list of questions which we go through very carefully, and it gives me all the information that I need to be able to, you know, become them, so that their words sound like them, not like me. But what I do say is that I sound like them on their best day. So that's
like them on their best day. Absolutely. And Can you give us some examples of a couple of clients that and projects that you've worked on recently, so we can get an understanding of what that looks like?
Yeah. So recently I worked for an architect who had just won a big award, or an architectural technologist actually. And so I worked with them on some social media scheduling for them, and also did a bit of PR work to help them get in the papers and things like that. So that was a really interesting project. And then just this week, actually, I've just finished doing some copy for a designer who needed an article written in an interior design magazine. So that was really interesting. And she was absolutely delighted. And she said, she sent me a lovely email back, actually, saying that I managed to capture her passion and her excitement, and also, you know, sound like her, which is obviously like a big ticks in my box of what I'm trying to do. So I absolutely love those projects. But otherwise, I've also you know, in the last couple of weeks, been writing a series of analytical blogs for a web developer. So it was covering off things like Google Analytics and drip feed marketing, social media. There was a couple of others which I've forgotten, but again, they're really interesting, and you know, as a resource for me learning also more about these things, and also about other, as I say, other businesses. It's a real joy, actually. I love it.
So why would they come to you as opposed to do it themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. And do you know what? I'm a big advocate for people actually doing it themselves, because it is in their voice. But, you know, you have to do it well. What you're trying to do is to get people, when they read your information, your copy, is that you want them to do something with it. First of all, it's got to be engaging enough that you stick with it and you read it through. And then one of the biggest things that I think is often forgotten by people when they do it themselves is that you need to have a call to action at the end, whether that's a blog or whether that's a social media post or whether that is on your website, to get people. Otherwise it's just words. Your words need to be working for you, and they need to be, you know, obviously transferring people's interest into getting involved with whatever you're doing. So whether that's, you know, clicking through to your website, having a look at your work and deciding whether they want to use your products and services, whatever they may be, or buy things from your shop, then that's what you need to be doing. So that is very important. In terms of sort of how you might approach writing copy, I think one of the things that I notice, this is especially true actually of people that perhaps are quite technically involved in what they're doing, is that you're writing words, but they're not necessarily targeted to the lay people that might be reading it. So sometimes it's quite handy actually to have somebody else come in to write something, because they don't have those attachments that you perhaps do to the work that you're doing. And it's also not to use lots of flowery language, and to keep the message, or if I dare I say it, the sales message, really clear and accurate, so that it's easy for people to understand and know what you're trying to do, and keep that really simple. I think when people sit down with a pen and paper to sort of start planning things, or on the computer, there is a tendency to use lots and lots of really long ly words, and, you know, try and sort of bulk it out, but it actually just makes it really hard to read. And as a children's author, that's one thing that you really do get hammered out of you. You're not able to just write all of these, you know, really long, extensive paragraphs. It's got to be really clear, it's got to be enjoyable, and it's got to be concise. And that's kind of what I bring to my copywriting. I should also say that before I started writing, I was actually in sales and marketing as well. So I bring together, you know, that sort of sales and marketing hat, as well as my sort of author and writing. So together it makes quite a good team up for copywriting.
Yeah. So you're saying be concise, don't go into lots of flowery language, because you'll lose people in the reading.
Yes.
Keep it into plain English, not so much technical terms, because again, when you're writing about, you know, we're talking mainly to artists here, when you're talking to when you're talking about your work, you know it intimately, don't you? You really intimate knowledge of it.
Exactly.
But the person on the other side who's reading that doesn't. So you have to be quite basic in the way you're explaining it.
Yes, and I also think if somebody's trying to write their own copy, or having a go at seeing how they want to fit into their market space, one thing that I always do as a copywriter, and it is an absolute must, is you've got to see what your competitors are doing. Now, that for artists, it could be other artists that are in the same field. There's no harm in doing this. It's just research. You're not going to plagiarize what they've written, but you can see what you like about what your competitors are doing. And you could think about how you might be able to use those ideas yourself in a different way to get the results that you would like to have for yourself. So that is almost like, it's really high up my list when I'm doing copywriting, is to find out, or for blog writing as well, it's just to see what else is out there in that space, because obviously I don't necessarily know, so I need to understand where you're sat within the space that your business is.
So competitor research is always interesting.
Really?
And, there are thousands and thousands of artists out there. And I always say, pick the ones you want to be, your career to be like. It's not that you want to, as you say, you're not plagiarizing, you're not copying.
No.
You're saying competitor research is looking at someone who has a career plan and a career path that you admire. Go and look at them and look back on their social media posts and their blog posts and how they're communicating, their artist statement, and you'll learn so much, won't you?
Absolutely. They've already done the hard yards, bless them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. So yeah, learn from them, absolutely. But also keeping an eye on your own identity and how you want to come across, because that's what makes you unique and special. And obviously, as a copywriter, or we want to shout loud about that, because that's what separates you from your competitors as well and makes you unique. And that's obviously one of your key selling points.
Yeah, your USP. So as you say, looking at what your competitors are doing, and when we use competitors, we use that in the loosest possible term.
Yeah,
it's about people who you aspire to be like.
Yeah.
You want to be your own unique self that has integrity, but actually it really helps to see what other people are doing.
It really does.
Because that hones down your own unique voice as well. It helps you identify how you're special and different from them as well.
Absolutely.
So I don't think you can underestimate those two things, which is research and clarity.
I agree. I think those are really, really key. And I suppose for me, in terms of the sorts of why clients would perhaps choose to use a copywriter, I don't know if we've covered that off, Lesley, have we?
Oh, I think keep going.
Okay, keep going with it.
Keep flow with that.
Okay. Yeah, well, there's three key things that I've noticed. I've sort of been keeping a little bit of a log of why people are using my services. And there seems to be broadly three areas. One is they simply don't have time. And that's a really key thing. I know there's a web developer, for example, that gives me a lot of work, and they're saying, my client's been sitting on this, their copy, because they're trying to do it themselves for 3 months, and the website's ready to go live, and I've just told them to call you and use you. And I said, that's fine. And within sort of 48 hours, we had a first draft. And that's the thing, isn't it? If it's something that you find quite easy, it can happen quite quickly. So there's that. People that don't have time would use me. Also, people who perhaps where English isn't their own language. I see quite a lot of clients who need just that little bit of extra help, just to make sure that their language comes across in the way that they want it to in English. And then the other one, and this is a really key one for me, and I find it very interesting because I can totally get this. Lots of my clients just find talking about themselves impossible. So it's just that self-celebratory, I'm this, I'm that. And obviously I love doing it. I can step into their shoes and I can be that person, and I can celebrate them in the way that they should be, without feeling kind of awkward and a bit embarrassed that, as they might do if they were talking about themselves. So yeah, those are the three key areas that I've noticed.
Yeah, I think that one about celebrating yourself is really interesting because, you know, we've covered off how you would kind of get into it. You'd do some research and you'd use plain English and you'd identify your USP and everything. But then you get to the nub of it, don't you? Get to the nub of it, which is I'm going to be, and it's so un-English to show off and say, you know, we're really good at this and this is something amazing about us. And we just got to get over it.
I think you have just got to get over it. And I think the more that you do copy about yourself, you know, obviously I've done some other podcasts, and obviously with my books, I've also traveled around the country doing presentations about the books and workshops and creative workshops. Yeah, you just have to get to the point where you just have to go with it. I think the imposter syndrome, we've spoken about this before, Lesley, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it is actually a sign that you're probably doing all right. If you're starting to feel a bit of imposter syndrome coming in, the chances are you're sort of getting somewhere.
I think there's the two things, isn't there? There's the imposter syndrome and the perfectionism thing that holds you back.
Oh, yes.
You want to be perfect before you show it to the world.
Oh, yes. Well, definitely with artists, I can totally understand that. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. And we just have to, I think it's about desensitizing. And the thing I've noticed is if I'm frightened of something, if I'm fearful of something, because I think I'm, you know, not going to be good enough, or it's always about a fear. There's always a fear in there.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to be good enough, or someone's going to judge me, I just have to keep doing it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep doing it over and over and over again.
That's it.
And then I'll get over it.
I think that's so true. And perhaps this isn't so much on the copywriting side of things, but to have in your mind's eye when someone asks you what you do, just a set pitter patter.
Yeah.
You can actually say, like, I think they call it in sales, you know, like an elevator pitch, which is really
pitch,
horrible and not very artistic, but it does really help you to sort of banish those nerves and just have like a really concise little bit of information that says very clearly and very quickly what you do. So you can just get it out of the way and then carry on.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that is kind of integral into the words you use. When we say elevator pitch, some people say to me, what on earth? And it's like, you have to be able to tell someone what you do concisely in the time it takes them to get in the elevator, go up one floor and get out again. Yes. That gives you under a minute, doesn't it, to actually be able to tell somebody. And as absolutely correct. And that's the same with website copy, I think. And the same with social media copy as well, is that people's attention span, even when they're talking to you, is like 20 seconds.
Yes.
So...
Oh, I had some stats about that.
Did you?
But yeah, I can't remember what the latest thing is about how long the attention span is online, but it's terribly short. I mean, we're talking 3 seconds, I think, or something.
I was going to say, I think it is 3 seconds.
Yeah, I think it is.
So when someone arrives on your social media, you need to grab them. So you said you were doing you did some social media posts for the architect that won the award. Yeah. How did you approach that? How did you do that? And did you kind of create a body, like 5 or 6, and then they kind of scheduled them?
I did. They actually were shortlisted for this competition, which they ultimately went on to win, which is brilliant.
Yay!
And very proud for them. And it was really, you know, when you get an opportunity like that and you're recognised in your field of work, whatever that is. I remember I won a competition which started me off on my writing career, and I didn't have any help. And I really wish there had been somebody there just going, like, breathe, do this. And it's all just done. You just then have to press the button and it's all done. It was, I just did 6, I believe, social media posts. It was for LinkedIn essentially. And they used to.
So this was for LinkedIn.
Yeah. And for, and they were just like little messages, just to keep people on cue with the upcoming awards ceremony, because they didn't know if they were going to win or not. This was their moment. And, you know, it was really key that it was recognised as an achievement and celebrated, whether they won or not. And then ultimately they did go on the wing, because they're fabulous. And they were fabulous before they won, obviously, just getting that far. It's like an international award. It's really huge. And then we just did a bit of PR work, getting local papers interested in covering the story too, which was successful also. So Yeah.
How did you approach that with the PR work?
Yeah.
Did you write a small bit of copy and then get the papers interested and then write more copy, or did you write the whole? Did you go for the whole press release kind of concept?
Well, I found out. First of all, I found out whether the competition had any press release material to use. So we had something that was official from the competition, and then I told them to attach pictures as well, because they had pictures of the award ceremony in London. And then I did a very short piece of copy, which was attached just as a Word document. And the idea is that obviously these people have got no time like everyone else. They've got to fill these newspapers up, and they're short of time. So, you're trying to make it as attractive as possible. So yeah, I wrote a mini article, and then which was used quite a bit, and then I also wrote the copy for the email covering letter, just to say, there's a copy if you want to use it, trying to make it as easy as possible for them just to say, oh, that's an easy decision, this is a really cool story, we've already got some copy, I can do this quite easily. And so that's how I approached it.
Did you keep that, like that email, was it quite friendly?
Yeah. I think what you need to do actually is it's a bit of a pain, but you have to approach you have to go onto their websites, choose somebody in particular that's relevant, most likely to want to produce a piece of work about what you're doing, and then target them in personal email, mentioning things, trying to keep it as friendly and as personal to them and their publication as possible, rather than just blanket covering loads of ones and blind covering loads of different publications.
And did you ring them as well? Did you pick
I
up the phone?
Than that. No, I just do the words, Lesley. I'm just the words.
Do you think they rang them, the people? Because you're saying they didn't have much time, so I wonder if they had the time to kind of make it that personal.
The last I heard was they'd made I think they did have a phone conversation in the end, but they, the copy was used. So I think my involvement in it was quite helpful, I hope.
Well, obviously, to get through the door, it's just interesting that I think it's always good to explore that process of how you set up the social media, how you set up the PR, and it's really important that all of the dialogue from the email through to the article and the attachments are all consistent, isn't it? So that it's a consistent voice, so they don't go, oh, that doesn't sit with that.
Yeah, that's true. When you say consistent voice, you mean my client's voice? Yeah. Although the copy that I wrote was kind of less in their voice because it was about them.
So you wrote that as you were the narrator. Oh, wow. So that's the benefit of using someone as well, isn't it? Is to get the narrator's voice.
Ah, yes, that's a good point. Yes, the narrator's voice is quite good. So in the article that I wrote recently for the designer, there was a bit at the beginning that was like a narrator's voice, where it's setting the scene, telling you a bit about their biography and who they are and what they've achieved, again, celebrating that. But that was all done as a narrator's voice. And this is the style of the publication, actually. And then it goes into from first person's voice with the client, sort of explaining various fascinating information about what they do, which was really lovely. But yes, a narrator's voice can be very useful when you're talking about yourself without being you can do it in third person or narrator's voice, which is good.
I think when you're writing an artist statement, very often people want it in the third person. So like as a narrator talking about you, and that's a skill in itself, isn't it? But also that does help you disassociate slightly.
Totally. It's lovely. It is lovely. How do you, it is about getting a balance between that, isn't it? Because you want to be personal and come across with you as you. But yeah, there are definitely times, and I think perhaps your artist statement is a good example of that then.
That you would want to detach. And that helps you celebrate yourself without looking like you're breaking the whole English code.
I know. But
The whole English cultural code.
I know. But I hear that English copywriters are quite in demand in America and places like that, because we do approach things in a slightly different way. I'm not saying it's a better way, but we obviously have a different style, which is a bit softer. And
a bit more humility.
Maybe, yes. I don't know. But I have heard, I haven't got any American clients at the moment.
I was just about to come on to say to you, have you had any experience of copywriting for someone outside of the UK?
No, but I have a friend who's also a copywriter, and they are actually a blog copywriter, and they have lots of American clients. And it was something that they mentioned to me, and I just thought that was really interesting, because it wasn't something that I knew.
And just to kind of like round the circle, are there any particular kind of words or word sets that you would avoid when you're writing copy? I know that's quite a complicated question.
No, it's not actually. If I'm on the right sort of vein that you are, not to be negative.
Thank you. Yes, you are on the right page with me. That is, I didn't know what the answer was, but I'm like, yes, that is the answer, isn't it?
Yeah, you just want to keep it really fresh and exciting and nice, and even just very small changes in the copy where you might not have realized that something negative has crept in. I mean, I can write something and find them in there, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want that. It's meant to be uplifting, it's enjoyable, and you're sharing information that's interesting. I think that's the other thing which is very important to your creative artists, is that the old Google algorithms, Lesley, and they are, they're changing all the time. We don't really know what they do. It's like the dark arts of.
It is the dark arts. There's a children's book in there.
It really is.
Called Rosie. What is it? Rosie Muddles. Rosie Muddles and the algorithm.
Google Analytics. Google Analytics. But anyway, the thing is with the algorithms that are constantly changing. There used to be a time, and people talk about keywords. I don't know if that means anything to your listeners, but it's words that you use that you think Google searchers will be using to try and find you online. So keywords, and there's another phrase which is long tail phrases, which is like a similar thing too. And there was a period of time not that long ago, because things are changing so quickly, where people would try and cram these keywords in as much as possible, because Google would think, oh, there they are, and they're talking about it so much, it must be really cool, and they must be really relevant to our users. Because all Google want, their only purpose is to get the right information, the accurate information to their users. That's all they're interested in. But now it's sort of changed, and what Google is looking for, as with so many different businesses now, it's all about the level of experience that you are, what value and experience are you giving to our users? So it's more about educational content now, and that is really highly prized. And if you get recommended from another website to your website, these sorts of things really accelerate how you're viewed by the Google algorithms now. So it's gone away from just, and guest blogging as well, and things like that. But you don't want to be repeating the same information. All your information needs to be fresh and new, and really be adding value. So you don't want to just be copying and pasting the same bit of information, because it's like, oh, someone's asked me some information. I've done that before, and you just throw it in there, because Google will get wise to that. It's all about writing fresh and interesting educational content that people actually want to read. And that's how you start to grow your online profile. And you sort of become, if you do it right, the subject matter expert in your field. And blogs obviously are a really good way of doing that as well. I think I've got a stat that comes to mind. I think if you do a regular blog, which could be like once a month or something, I think it increases your traffic by 67%, something like that. Wow. Yeah, it's a really big difference. So, but it is, again, if you're going to do a blog, then you need to make sure that you are doing it regularly, and things like that as well.
Yeah, so regular, don't use negative language. Be the expert in you. And that's a really great one for artists, because of course they're the experts in them.
That's
They're
it.
experts in them and what they do. So write a blog. I think blogs are absolutely really important to have a blog on any website now,
Yes.
no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And as you say, use positive language, become the expert, be generous. So link yourself to other people across the
Nice.
way, because
Yes.
that's what people like.
Absolutely.
That's what the algorithm loves, isn't
It
it?
is.
Linking across. And then the same when you're doing your social media, you have to be very mindful of the algorithm as well, don't you, when you're writing the copy for your social media posts?
Yeah, you do. And it's a similar kind of thing that obviously you can't put links into your own website from there. We were talking about, making sure it goes back to the bio or something and they can link to it from there, which would be better. But just going back to the blogs very quickly, I think there is a blog formula which I could share.
Go on then, share the blog. Go on, share the blog formula. Yeah.
But generally blogs should be between 700 and 1,000 words. That's kind of like the ideal length now. And what you're trying to do is you start off with a really catchy phrase, which is intriguing and slightly, quirky enough that people would want to learn or read a little bit more. Then you do a paragraph. I don't always follow this, by the way, but this is how lots of people do it. Then you do a paragraph underneath telling them about what you're going to discuss during the blog. Then you go into the main text, which is actually explaining the information that you're setting out. And then at the very end, you do a call to action. And that is crucial. Otherwise, you've just wasted your words. You need to have the call to action at the end, which is where you're saying to them, if you've enjoyed this, or to find out more, or blah, 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 and then visit the website.
Visit this, do this, go to my social media. It can be as simple as follow me on. It can be as simple as follow me on Instagram if you found this interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
But don't waste your energy with not telling people what you want to do at the end.
No. And how do you feel about social media? Because I'm a sort of like a big fan of find one that you really like and do a lot with that. I don't think you necessarily need to be on all platforms, but what do you think, Lesley?
I'm a big fan of not overwhelming yourself so you do everything badly.
Yes.
Do what you do, and if that means the time says you can only do one, do whatever you do to the very best of your ability. That's kind of my mantra for life.
Oh my God, that is mine as well. It is absolutely, do you know, whatever happens, as long as you've given it your absolute best, then whatever happens, even if things don't go right from that, you can at least look back on it and say, do you know, I gave it my best shot.
I did my best.
I did my absolute best.
At that moment, that was the best I could do.
Yeah.
So the people who take on, they're doing 3 or 4 different social media platforms, that's great if they've got the time and energy to give all of that their best. And some people do. But most of us humans don't. Yeah. Most humans have got the ability to do one thing and pick the platform. Now, it depends on what your aim is, what your objective is. You see,
yes,
because some people are trying to build audience. You can't build audience on social media. It's a fake audience. You have to build audience through relationships. So if you're picking, that's the only real audience, is when you build a proper relationship with somebody. So like for Instagram, artists love Instagram because it's visual and they really love it. But mainly it's other artists you're communicating with. And that's great. If that's you're going to feed off their energy and it's going to help you stimulate your practice. Absolutely fabulous. But if you're doing Instagram as an artist thinking you're going to find buyers, you'll probably only find your friends and family. You won't. And if there's a particular, like we just had the artist support pledge, then that went quite well on Instagram because it was other artists buying from other artists. It wasn't really getting outside of their bubble, their audience. If you're looking for audience, you've got to have a bit of a reality check and go, where are the audience? Well, the audience are probably on LinkedIn or Facebook, but I don't like LinkedIn or Facebook. Well, get over it. Yeah. It depends what if you're trying to find audience, sometimes we have to do things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah. And who would your artists be looking for? Would it be sort of like hoteliers and places like that or developers?
It just
depends, are those the sort of really that they should follow that might be wanting lots of artwork to?
You see, I've had recently, so an artist got an opportunity to do something with a an outlet. They were doing lots of sustainable stuff, and they were following people who were in the sustainable and eco space on Instagram, and they got an opportunity from that. It was complete left of field. It wouldn't have been someone that you thought you were targeting, but they contacted them because they were in that eco space. Yeah. And there's people like that on Instagram. Yeah. And if you're wanting galleries, then galleries will use Instagram as a bit of a hunting ground to follow, but then you've got to be really super consistent and professional. And then you might get a gallery approach you. But if you're actually looking to build relationships with real, genuine people, then Facebook, you need to be over on Facebook, building relationships and getting followers from, you know, your own personal page and your artist page. And you need to have that in a linked way with your website and your blog. You know, it needs to be joined up thinking. You can't just stab in the dark.
No. And I think it's quite interesting with things like, let's stay with Instagram for a moment, but lots of people are judging whether their posts are successful by the number of likes that they get. And obviously that's really flattering. It's really nice when you get lots of likes, but that doesn't necessarily mean you've got to have an idea about your, as you say, your strategy and what you're actually trying to achieve. And it is presumably to get more people to buy or show interest or go to your website, so you can actually work out how well something is performing by just paying a little bit more attention to whether people are clicking through from certain posts that you do as well.
So it's insights, really. What you want is to be on Instagram is you need to have I say this literally every day, so clarity of intention, focus. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted by shiny objects. But, you know, Instagram's a terrible thing for like getting distracted. So you have to be really disciplined and really focused. And insights are great because you can actually see the level of engagement. And that's what you want to see is, are your engagement levels going up? And if they're not, why not? Why aren't they? And also, are you getting the kind of, you need to be aware of the kind of people who are following you, not just blindly, I've got 1,000 people following me. You know, you've got these Instagram, we've all been, you know, duped by these Instagram followers, Instagram influencers who've got like 20 million followers, but they're not able to monetize that. You know, there might be 1 or 2 out of 1 billion that are monetizing it, and everyone thinks it's like winning the lottery. It's fake. It's fake. And you're much better to have a strategy that is joined up, that is about building relationships, that you understand that if you do this bit of content on your Instagram, it means people click on your bio and they follow you and they actually give you their email because they're interested and they want to learn more, or they go to your website. And you can see that through Google Analytics and through the data on Instagram. So you have to just be you've got to give it more time. And you also have to have a strategy. Also, if you're looking for a strategy, go and have a look at what your competitors are doing. Go and look at your competitors. Exactly. Competitors. But don't worry about it. All the information's there. You just have to spend like a morning just having a quick look through, thinking about what's working for them or what might work for you. And then, you know, have a go at that and see what works better. It can be quite fun, I think, when you get into it. Yeah, I really love it. I mean, I love a good bit of competitor, when I'm using competitor in the loosest possible terms. I know. Research, because you are seeing what is working for other people. It might not work for you, but it's worth a try. If you find someone you aspire to be like in the context of their career, as opposed to you're not going to copy what they do. Yes. So that is absolutely. Everything starts with brainstorming and competitor research, doesn't it? You know, start there and then, but be strategic, have clarity. But I think that I'd like to just finish with the thing about, you must always be congruent with your time. So if you've only got 2 days a week to do with this, to do your art life or your career or whatever it is you're doing, make sure that you're doing the percentages right. You don't want to be spending 90% of your time on social media.
No, it is. It's a vacuum in there, guys, isn't it? We all know it.
It's hell in there.
Yeah,
so you need to make sure
obviously
you've got your percentages right.
Right, and things like Canva, where you can schedule posts, would also be a really helpful tool that could be implemented for that.
Do you time block? Is that something you do? Do you manage your time?
Oh, do I manage my time? Yeah. Yeah, I have. I use productivity planners.
Yeah.
So I really do manage my time, actually. And I'm still in terms of social media, it's still something that I'm just finding my feet with a little bit as well. I'm really good at doing social media posts for other people, but it's something, we're all in it, growing together, and I find it really interesting. I love Instagram.
But sometimes what you love isn't the place where you should be, because remember that nothing exciting happens in your comfort zone, Imogen.
No, that's it. And LinkedIn is where I get most interest. So there
you are. So you should be spending most of your time on LinkedIn and just having a little bit of a fun time in the playground of Instagram.
It's so pretty in there.
I know. But if it's not productive, then you have to just put it into a different time block.
Yeah. No,
so it's like, that's my leisure time.
Yeah.
It's a different space. Thank you so much. It's been really incredibly fascinating. I've learned so much as well. And it's also clarified quite a few things.
Good.
So hopefully everyone who's been watching has also had a few like little golden gems, golden nuggets come out there.
And also have a go yourself. I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? And
if you get stuck, click over to Hello Polly and book a 30-minute session with Imogen, and you could just ask her all your questions yourself. If you've got questions, that's the best thing to do. Just book on and have a session and just ask your questions.
Lovely. Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's been a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now you may get back to Rosie and write that one about algorithms.
I know. I'm going to love it.
You're going to have a fabulous time.
Oh, lovely to speak to you.
And you. I'm just going to come back up on the screen to say goodbye to everyone. Goodbye to everyone who's been watching on Facebook. Thank you very much. If you have questions, then just pop them in the Facebook comments and we will come over and do our best to answer them. You can tag me at Lesley Samms and you can tag Imogen at Hello Polly.
Lovely.
Do you have a Facebook page?
I'm more on Instagram and LinkedIn, to be honest.
So go over to Instagram. Hello Polly.
Somebody else, my business partner runs the Hello Polly Facebook side of things. So that's why I'm on Instagram. So yeah, just Hello Polly all over the place. Thank you. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks, Imogen. Take care. Bye.
Bye.